Today we have the privilege of visiting with another ex-prisoner of war, Kendall Mork. His home is in Hatton, North Dakota. Hatton, of course, is famous in aviation history for being the home of Carl Ben Alsen. Kendall Mork here was in the European theater of the war, pilot, shot down, and had a lot of interesting experiences. So at this time we'll just ask Kendall to tell us about his life and tell us how he won the war.
Well, not entirely by myself. Anyway, I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I was orphaned very young. My parents had tuberculosis, so they died, and I was an orphan at 3.5. And my aunt and uncle raised me, my father's sister, and raised me in Hatton. And
You'd get up, they take you up to Hatton, or was that where they
yes, no, I came to Hatton and lived there when I was 6.5. And anyway, I had a happy childhood, I guess. I was not a good student, but I tried. I didn't try very hard. I was not a good student, but anyway, after high school graduation, I went to what is now called ANDSU. It was the AC at that time, and I was a dropout there. I was in agricultural engineering, and I didn't like farming or engineering one bit. So I dropped out, and next year I went to Luther in Dakota, Iowa, and I got back on the track and got my grades up quite good. And the next year I took aviation engineering at the University of Southern California. But the war was coming very fast, and I would have had to borrow money to complete the thing, so I came home and I had my nose operated on for my breathing and gained some weight, and I finally got into the old Army Air Corps. I was accepted. And
what year was that about?
That was the day before the war broke out, on December 6th, 1941. And I came home on a train. I didn't know the war broke out, and my family met me in Fargo, and they told me the war broke out. So I was rather happy about it, rather, because it was finally time to do something. But they were feeling bad. Anyway, I finally went to the cadet program, and I graduated from La Junta, Colorado, in the class of 42H, and
that is the twin engine.
That was a twin engine school, yeah.
Advanced.
But they were flying.
Where'd you go to your other primary and basic and so on?
I went to primary in let's see, where was it? In Colorado Springs, I believe, and basic was. Oh, God.
Same area then, I suppose.
What?
It was in the southwest.
Yeah. Southwestern Texas there. And anyway, after we graduated, we were assigned to a field in Palm Springs, or no, in Blythe, California, just east of Palm Springs. And there were no airplanes there yet, and they were assembling crews there to be trained and sent overseas. And we were there quite a long time before they got a crew together, and we were assembled, and then we were shipped to Rapid City.
Well, now did you train then as a crew at Blythe, California?
We assembled this one, but we didn't train there. But when we got to Rapid City, South Dakota, we trained there as a crew, and there.
Now, what kind of planes were you flying then at Rapid City?
We were flying B-17Hs, and that's what we trained in all the time. And
what is your position on the crew?
I was co-pilot to a pilot named Penrod, and he never did go overseas, but he kept training pilots. But anyway, from Rapid City, we were there quite a while. Then we went to Portland, Oregon, and they had a base right on the river there in the Columbia. And we were shipped there kind of under close. It was kind of a defensive thing. We went on submarine patrol there out of Portland, Oregon, flew up up and down the coast for...
Out in the ocean?
Yeah. Yes. There were Japanese submarines that shot up oil refinery there, and that didn't last long, though. I think we flew 4 missions there. Then we were back to Portland. Then we were shipped to Geiger Field in Washington, Spokane, Washington, and we were there a long time there until we went overseas.
Now, did you train there as a group? Or?
Yes, we trained there as well, individual crews until just before we were moved, they sent us to Harrington, Kansas, and there we were trained as a group for a while. And we went by, we went overseas by ship. We were kind of a makeup group we went as a replacement group, and they didn't have planes or anything there, and so we went over on ship from Norfolk, Virginia, and we were in Casablanca there quite some time. Training there, and
with planes.
With B-17Hs.
Yeah.
Yes, I was pilot then, and but when we landed at the field there was kind of a hump on the thing, and I'd heard about it on the airfield strip there we landed
on the runway.
Yeah, the runway, and I kind of flew into it and broke an oil strut on the landing gear, and I had to wait for parts there, and they never did come, so we waited there quite a while, and then they shipped us by train to North Africa. Well, we were in North Africa, but we went to on the Adriatic.
On Italy?
What?
You went to Italy then?
No, first we flew out of North Africa there, about a half a dozen missions, I think. I flew out of there, out of Tunis, the base at Tunis there. And then,
now that was in the desert, was it?
Well, there been quite a few flights out of there when they were bombing Sicily and lower Italy. And when they secured them, the Army secured the Foggia area. Then we moved up to Foggia, or the field south of there. And
now was that in Italy? Now that was on the east coast of Italy.
Yes, on the very east coast.
On Adriatic.
Well, on the Adriatic, yes, maybe 6 miles from the
Were there a number of planes there, groups or squadrons?
Yes, so we filled in a squadron there. The 2nd Bomb Group was there already, and we were a replacement crew, so we started flying missions, and quite a few of them were quite easy, but we did fly some quite tough ones too.
What kind of missions would you say were easy? What were you bombing then, or?
Well, we bombed Monte Cassino twice. It's a fortress up there. The Catholic had a monastery up there, and nothing. The wall 6 feet thick and all those things, and so we didn't do any damage at all up there. And we flew to the west coast to back up the people that were fighting on the ground at
Yugoslavia or Albania?
No,
on Italy.
Yeah, on the Italian side, where they'd gone as far and then they couldn't move any further, and My memory has gotten a little dim there. I can't remember the name of it, but the invasion front there, and they were pinned down, the Americans were, so we bombed there twice, and we lost some planes there. But anyway.
Flak or enemy fighters, or?
I think they were flak, all of them. We were bombing low altitude to drop our bombs just over the lines there.
Oh, yeah.
And one of my best friends was I was flying wingman for him when he was shot down there. And anyway, then we went into a succession of some difficult raids, and one that I remember very well. We bombed the bridge at. I'll tell you another one first. We bombed we bombed the harbor of Athens. It was called Piraeus Harbor. We bombed shipping in the harbor.
Athens?
Yes.
Greece?
Yes, Athens, Greece, just across the Adriatic there down south. And we bombed low-level shipping there, and I have no idea how we did, but anyway, we we had to pull up over the city of Athens because the harbor was right there, and it's quite a steep climb up over there. We'd gotten our bombs off, but anyway, I couldn't believe it. The Parthenon was 200 feet under us when we pulled away from there, and luckily nobody collided with that or anything, but that was one of the, and then the bridge of Bolzano was another one.
Where was that bridge, in Italy, or?
Yes, up on the Adriatic side of, and we bombed it at low level and trail, and I can remember just coming into the target, and we were right on the target, but there was an old man beating a horse going across the bridge. And it took our minds off the bombing because we didn't do any damage, the whole group. And anyway, they sent P-38s back and finished the bridge off. But anyway, we flew several interesting missions there, some successful and some not so.
How big, what kind of a bomb load did they carry?
Well, we carried 500 thousands, and a couple of times we carried 2,000s. But when we were bombing, when I'd flown 28 missions, they changed our group to B-17Gs, which were just out then, and I slow timed one the day before our next mission the next day, and I didn't really like it. It had armor plating, and it had a turret in the nose, as this picture shows. And they were clumsy, and with a heavy bomb load, took a long time to get off the ground. But anyway,
now, go ahead.
Our target that day was our initial point was Wells, and the target was one of the three cities in the triangle there.
Up in northern Italy?
Yeah, up there, and no, it was in Austria. It was in Austria. Yeah. Well, my mind is.
Well, that doesn't make a difference.
Yeah,
It was one of those cities
anyway,
that you were bombing. The city.
Tough. We had a full crew, a full squad, or a full group with 35 planes took off, and I think most of us reached the target, or reached the IP, the initial point where you turn on off towards the target. And I was shot down there just at the initial point, and
by flak or fighters?
Fighters.
Fighters.
Yeah, they hit us head on, and I lost a 3 engine, and we still had our bombs, and that G fell like a stone out of formation there. And by the time I got the number 3 engine feathered and shut down, we were 1,000 feet out of formation already. And then the funniest thing I saw during the war was there were I thought, what are they shooting rockets at us or something? Because they were whizzing by, bright as could be, passing us and going out in the distance there. And they were 20 millimeter cannon fire, and they sent one of their planes up to that altitude, and they hadn't been up there before. But then I got nervous. Then they zeroed in on us, and my co-pilot got one right in the back, and I got the next one in my right hip, and took the side off my right leg, and left about 15 pieces of flak in my leg and 2 up in my hip. And I didn't realize I was hit even, and for some time I didn't feel it or anything.
What about the co-pilot? Was he killed then? Or?
He was killed instantly, yeah.
You hit him where?
Right in the back, I think.
Oh, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it came through that armor plating like nothing.
Now, were they firing at you from the front or from the back?
From the back.
From
they
the
were
back.
trailing us, yes.
Trailing you.
So
it was 20 millimeter?
cannon fire, yeah. And anyway, they shot the vertical stabilizer off the plane next and got the tail gunner. And
on your plane?
yes, and we went into a diving motion. I didn't, by the time I had control, when that happened, we went into a dive and off to the left, and very severe maneuver. And
you didn't spin. It went pretty well straight, or did it?
I fell off to the left, and I was trying to work it back out of the dive it was in, and I finally got it kind of leveled off, and then I got it on co-pilot, or automatic pilot, I mean. And I realized that I was, because I could feel the blood running into my shoe, that I was wounded quite badly. But anyway, my engineer stayed with the plane, and everybody else had bailed out except 4 were killed on the plane.
4 were killed?
Yes, on the plane.
Now, the engineer, he was right between the pilot and co-pilot, wasn't he?
Well, he was doing the upper gun turret.
Oh, he was in there, okay.
Yeah, and luckily he'd stayed there because none of us had our parachutes on. We wore chest packs.
Yeah.
And he helped me get my chest pack on and helped me bail out through the bottom hatch there. Yeah. And
was the plane on autopilot then when you
yes,
relatively level?
It was holding very nicely.
Yeah.
Straight. I don't know how far it went, but
how far, what altitude were you then at that time?
I think the mission was around 25, but by that time we were down to maybe 22.3. Yeah. And anyway, they taught you to make a delayed drop if you were wounded badly, and not open your chute till you could see objects on the ground fairly clearly, trees and buildings and things. And so I was following instructions there, and I started dropping, and a very lonesome feeling when you're lying on your back dropping, because the whole sky was parachutes up there. Sure. They shot down 17 of our 35, all in the rear end of our group formation. And,
the Germans with fighters?
Yes.
Using a lot of the cannons?
Yeah, well, I don't know if they got that many planes up there, but that's what got me. And or us, I should say. Anyway, I was dropping, and I wasn't afraid a bit. It's such a lonesome feeling, though. You're leaving your plane.
Now, how many men bailed out of that plane, of your plane?
6.
6.
Yeah.
The others were killed.
Yes.
And they went down with the plane.
With the plane, yes. And anyway, I keep saying anyway. When I got towards the ground, I could see the buildings and trees coming up. I reached up to pull my ripcord, and I couldn't get my arm up there. I didn't know it. My elbow had been shot out of my arm. But I didn't panic. I reached across my left hand, pulled it right away, and I swung just once, or not quite a whole swing, hit the ground in deep snow in a small town there. And I was conscious immediately when I hit, but I lay up on this hill and I could see a farm family over there, out there watching me. And I had my 45 on, and I took that out and threw it back over in the snow. I didn't want to have that on when I was picked up, and because I couldn't do anything anyway.
Well, I believe too that if you had a weapon on yourself, they'd maybe consider you armed and would shoot you. I mean,
so
kill you.
I got rid of that, and
what about the others now? Were the others around in there that you saw?
No, but we all landed near a small village called I think it was called Kitsville. No, not. But anyway, it was a very small town, and I landed there. And after a little bit, two young German soldiers came running up the hill and got me walking down the hill. I could hardly stand, but and they met an officer at the bottom of the hill, and he took over.
Now, that was snow on a kind of a hill or a mountain?
Yes, it was a hill. It wasn't a mountain. It was.
You walked down through the snow then, I suppose.
Yeah, difficult.
Say, what date was that about?
That was on February 24th, 1943.
February 24th, 1943.
Yes.
Okay.
And then they.
You met this German officer.
Yes, he took me over to. There was a trench there and some hay bales, and we sat down on one of the hay bales, and he sent the two soldiers off to get some help, I guess, and they went out, and I had 2 packs of cigarettes on me, and I offered him one of the Camels, and he took one, and we both lit one and sat there and smoked while we were waiting. He could speak some English, but not really well.
No.
And to get on his good side, I offered him the pack if he'd take it, and he wouldn't take it. He just took the one, and he got dizzy after smoking a few puffs of it because their cigarettes were
pretty poor.
Yeah, they were Strawmore. Anyway, then these 2 French soldiers came with a wagon with a horse, a little low sled type wagon, and they put me in the back, lying down in that, and started into town now. And I remember getting to town, and the hospital there was full, and they couldn't take us, and so they sent us on to a small Catholic hospital that was there, and I remember waking up in the hospital, and I looked over, and one of my good friends was they were cutting the clothes off us, and he was lying there next to me, and anyway, we wound up in the same room together, and we were there just 3-4 days. Then we went to a large specialist hospital in Wels, Austria, which was had a very good doctor, and it treated major wounds and things.
Did they do much to the first hospital you went to, that Catholic hospital?
No, they put a small cast on me and a sling, and there were a bunch of civilian patients in there. We were the only two Army people, and they didn't like us very well.
The civilians didn't like you?
No, and making remarks in German about us. But anyway, we went to the next hospital as well, and we had very good treatment there.
That is a big hospital?
Yeah.
Run by the Germans?
Yes, run by the Germans. And one of the head doctor was one of the chief surgeons from the University of Vienna there, and he gave me marvelous treatment, set my arm in a 90-degree position. He said I could have it like that or this, or if I was going to be an officer like this. But I chose 90 degrees, and
that's your arm now?
Yes, I can't bend that.
No.
I can't turn my wrist.
No.
But it's been very satisfactory ever since.
Have you had much pain in it since? Rheumatism?
I
or?
have no pain in my arm whatsoever, but my leg and hip have been bothering me.
What did it damage? Did it break? What happened to your hip and leg then?
Well, when this 20 millimeter hit me in the hip, it exploded coming out the side of my leg and took the whole side of that big muscle off.
Off your leg,
there.
Yeah. Funny you didn't bleed to death.
Yeah, well, I was bleeding, but people have a lot of blood in them. And anyway, the first hospital I was in, this Catholic hospital, none was cutting my clothes off, and she looked at my dog tag and she said, "Mork," she said, "My name is Mork, could we be related?" And I said, "No, my ancestors came from Norway." But then she said, "Well, it's possible," but I found out later my sister traced our genealogy back, and we did originally come from Austria.
Oh, I see.
The Mork. And I don't know, religious things, I guess, were changing it. But anyway, from then on, I had very good care there, and it was an interesting hospital.
Were there a number of Americans there?
There were 12 Americans in there in 2 rooms. I was in a room with 4 Americans, enlisted men, and the next room had 8 people with 3 officers in it, and when they...
See, there's a picture up there now showing on the screen. Are you...
Oh, yeah, that's when they transferred us from this hospital at...
in Italy, then, or?
No, that's in Austria.
Oh, yeah.
I knew all of them quite well, but they brought us from there up to over Massville to the interrogation center there.
By Frankfurt?
Yeah, just north of Frankfurt there. Yeah. And but while we were there in this hospital here, the 2nd Bomb Group led the raid on Wells, and there was a jet fighter field that was training there, and they strung their bombs out into town there, and bombed our hospital, so it burned to the ground. But in the next room, they were dropping frags and
incendiary bombs?
Incendiaries, yeah, on target. And one landed right on one of the fellows in the next room, and it killed 4 of them in there.
In the other room?
Yeah, in the other room, and none of us were injured. Oh, I got a couple pieces of frag pieces in my hip again. But anyway, we had to leave there. And,
hospital burned to the ground, you say?
Yes, it burned it right to the ground. Yeah. And after...
How many patients were there in that hospital then? Quite a few? Or?
Well, I don't know, but
a lot of
beyond the 12 Americans, it was really a German officers' hospital.
I see.
And after we'd been in the interrogation center there.
How'd you get up there? Did you walk or
train? Train, yeah. That's north of Frankfurt.
Yeah.
There. It's quite a ways from Wells, and we.
Must have taken you several days then.
Yes, railroad was slow there.
Yeah.
But we were there, and while we were in Wells, we'd gotten 2 of us had gotten repatriation tickets. The Swiss had come through and examined us, and they figured we were ready for repatriation because we couldn't, mostly my arm and leg, could never fight again.
Yeah.
So one day this English colonel, I believe he was a colonel, he came and asked me if I would volunteer to go to prison camp because I was getting quite well, and I could bring a bunch of information back when I was repatriated. So I agreed to it, and one other fellow agreed to it too, who had a ticket, and we were never to speak to each other after that, and so we went to Stalag Luft 3 by train.
That's from the interrogation center?
Yes, from that interrogation center.
Did they interrogate you at the center much?
Yes, I did, to put it in a box there for a couple of hours or so, but they knew all about, and this was months after I'd been shot down, so they didn't interrogate my crew before that, so they knew my name and everything about me. But anyway, we got to prison camp, and
That's at Sagan.
at Sagan, yes, Luft 3, and about 10,000 American and British prisoners were in there. And the British had dug that tunnel and got out of there, quite a few of them, and they were not happy about it, so they were rather tough on the British prisoners there at the time. But I was assigned a room with 15 other Americans, officers.
Were you there before the break? Before that break at
No,
Sagan?
afterwards, yes. They'd been out and captured.
They'd captured him and killed him. And murdered him,
Most of them.
Yeah.
And we were there until, I guess, I don't remember just exactly. I know we left there. We were shot down on February 24th, and we left there the latter part of October. I don't remember the exact date.
You left Stalag 3?
Yes.
Yeah, Sagan.
To be repatriated through Marseille, France.
Now, were there many repatriated there, men that you know of?
Yeah, there were quite a few, but only...
Did they have a ticket or something? Or
yeah, you got a little piece of paper saying you were eligible for...
You held that?
Yes, and I kept it with me all the time. But there were quite a few Americans, but most of them were mental cases that had broken down and lost their mental things. And also at the same time, Stalag Luft 1 had their men coming there too. And so we had a big, the liver ship, or hospital ship, Hope, was waiting in Marseille harbor there.
How did you get from Sagan then to Marseille?
By train.
Were there quite a few on that train?
Yes, there were, but...
they were all repatriated?
Yes, but some from each camp, and and they, when we were on our way from Sagan to Marseille, they stopped at another interrogation center, and I had my book, POW book, and this picture was done just before I left Sagan there, and I was I went through interrogation and briefing by the colonel who was there, and several times, and so I brought back some of the information. I don't know what it was, but I brought back 2 notebooks with code in them, and they took one of them away from me, so I didn't have it all, but I brought
Who
back...
took that away, the Germans or Americans?
The Germans, sir, yeah. And I brought back all the bailout procedures in the European theater for all our planes in the European theater. And I had them pretty well in my head, but I never did get my one book back. I bring a lot of names and prisoner of wars that wanted me to contact their families when I got back.
Now, in that camp at Sagan, did you live in a barracks or a tent?
Yes, a wooden barracks, like same at Luft 3. I think all of them, had
about 10, 12, 15, 25 or so in the room?
Oh, 15 in the room I was in.
Did you live in bunks or shelves or on the floor?
Double-deck bunks.
Double-deck, yeah.
Yeah, and...
what kind of food did you have?
Yeah, I'm not a big eater, and I got along very well on it. I wasn't hungry, and I thought I was living quite well, But anyway, they took away on this interrogation camp. They stripped us and made us stand out in the snow, stripped, and the winter time there on the way to our hospital ship, Marseille.
Took
and
all
then,
your clothes off?
Yeah, and they took all the things out of our clothes that they didn't want us to have.
Sure.
And that one book also went. But they let me keep the one book I have there with some of the POW pictures and things. And when we got to Marseille,
there's a copy of the book there. You can see the
oh
outline.
yeah, that's the book there.
You got that? You kept that with you all the time?
Yes, I did. I got it in the prison hospital when the Swiss came by, and they were the first repatriation was Swedish. They were repatriated, but I was too late for that. I was in the hospital and couldn't be moved yet. So the next one was carried out by the Swiss, and they treated us very nicely. And but I went on. I was taken off the hospital ship and brought into.
Taken off the hospital ship at Marseille?
Yes, at Marseille, and they took us.
Was the ship in the harbor?
In the harbor, yes.
And how long were you on there then before they took you off?
Just one day.
One day.
Yeah. And
Why'd they take you off?
Well, because we had all this information that was going back from the. There were the two of us from some Luft 3 were included, and I think there were 9 of us in all that were taken off and sent by plane back. We flew up to Paris. They flew us to Paris, and then by plane from there to back to Walter Reed Hospital. Or we landed there in Walter Reed, and I was assigned there, and I guess we all were. But anyway, I was there for quite a while, and I had a desk in the Pentagon there. I shared a desk with another lieutenant, and we transferred all the things we'd brought back with us to there, the bailout procedures and the code, the things I never did understand them. I gave them the things in code which were in my book.
Now, did you, when you were at the Pentagon there, where did you stay? Did you stay at the hospital, or?
I stayed at the hospital and would go to the drive to the Pentagon every day.
Did they call you taking bus or?
They had a special car for us.
I see.
Yeah, there were only 2 that were with me.
Now, there's a man there on that on the picture.
Yeah, that's he was. He had his back broken and he had a leg off, and I can't remember his name right now. But that's when we transferred from Wells to the interrogation center
up in Frankfurt.
Yeah.
Was he with you?
Yes, he was one of the people.
Yeah. Was he able to walk then when he got to Frankfurt? Or?
No, we had some trouble there at Frankfurt to get from Frankfurt up to the interrogation hospital. They had to take us. There are 2 railroad stations in Frankfurt, and we had to go from one railroad station to the other. And while the night before we got there, several Americans were shot down right over Frankfurt by the British bombers, and some of them landed right across the street there, and they strung them up hung them on telephone wire poles there.
Strung up Americans?
Yes.
Right there where...
Yeah, right across the street, and the feelings were very hot there, so...
Did you see them, or did you just tell you about them?
No, we didn't see them, but they told us about them.
Yeah.
Luckily enough, this German officer that picked me up first, he was along with us, and he kind of saved us from the crowd was gathering, and he got people cooled down, so we got on the train, and then we took a slow train from Frankfurt down to Marseille. Or no, from Paris down to Marseille. We were already in Paris. Yeah. No, what am I talking about? We flew up to Paris, and then we flew from Paris back to Walter Reed. We landed at.
But now the interrogation, did they, when you got to Walter Reed and to the Pentagon there, did you write down all these things then that you remembered from the interrogation? And so
on? In my POW book there that I have, there's a code in there, and there's maybe 25 pages in there. But I had another notebook with the more important things.
Yeah.
And they took that away from me. So
the Americans or
the Germans?
Germans did. Yeah.
Took it. So I didn't get it all back, but and Walter Reed would go to the Pentagon and every day, and or half days we were there, and I had a secretary and a desk there, and I was giving them all the information I could give them and working on my book. But
how was your physical health then at that time?
It was coming along pretty good.
Your arm and your leg? And
yeah, I just gotten my cast off my arm, but I was limping with crutches. I was on crutches, so I was moving quite well. And on the flight back, we were immediately we were transferred to Walter Reed Hospital from.
That's in Washington, D.C.
Yes, yeah. And we landed at the famous field there. But
well, there's Andrews, and there's Bowling or Boeing.
No, in Washington D.C. it's
Dulles.
No, that's civilian.
Yeah.
The Army field there. Yeah. Anyway, I was there till I was shipped to Chicago to a hospital on the lakeshore, Lake Michigan. It was kind of a repatriation center for people that was closest to my home. Oh, and yeah. So they sent me from there. I was not discharged. I was the word is, I was repatriated. I was retired from there as a captain, and I went home from there.
Yeah, but now before you were, before they retired you or so on, then you how long were you at their recuperation center there in Chicago? At that
possibly 3 or 4 weeks.
3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And they discharged you there.
Yeah, they retired me.
Yeah, retired
me there, and it was very nice. I had some more information that they were getting out of me, but mostly it was preparing me for going back to meet my family. And my family, I'd been missing in action once the time I was shot down until the Swiss came through there in June. I was several months there missing in action. But then when the Swiss came, they informed my family that...
now, where was your family at Hatton then?
Yes.
Those relatives,
yeah. So, but I thought I received very good treatment all the time. Pretty much I was there. Yeah. I was well pleased. And I liked the old Army Air Corps.
Now, when they retired you, they retired you as a captain then
yes,
yeah.
But I'd been promoted to first lieutenant just before and at that time the old Army Air Corps, you had to be in grade so long before you could jump another grade. So I was retired as a captain, but I was receiving.
Then you were retired on physical disability.
Yes, and I was drawing first lieutenant's retirement pay.
I see.
Yeah, But
Now you've drawn that since then, haven't you?
yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been increased quite a bit
Sure. Yeah.
from that time. But
Now, how's your health been since you got out?
pretty good.
You contact the VA in Fargo or Minneapolis from time to time?
I was retired, so I went to when they built Grand Forks Air Force Base. I went there for some time, and I had been to the VA, but I was in pretty good health at that time, so I had no major problems.
No.
But when I got to 65, I'm 77 years old now. When I became 65, I transferred to the VA because the air base was mostly dependents and
Yeah, sure. At Grand
children
Forks
and
area.
stuff. Yeah, in Grand Forks Air Force. But I've been there a couple of times since. And
How's the VA treated you?
I think very good.
How did the base treat you out here at Grand Forks?
Very good too.
Yeah.
Very good. But they were glad I transferred to the VA because they had so many dependents that were needed care more than I did.
Yeah.
And since then, I was retired the 6th of July in 1943, and I was married the 10th of July, 4 days later in 1943, to an old girlfriend of mine who lived right across the street there. That's Carl Ben Eilison's niece. Yeah.
In Hatton.
Hatton, yes.
Yeah, in Hatton.
Yeah. And we've been married over 51 years also. So.
Yeah. Now, what connection do you have with the Carl Ben Eilison Museum there? You maybe mentioned a little bit of that. People are...
I don't have any connection
No.
with my wife is Carl Ben Eilison's niece, and her mother was Carl Ben Eilison's sister. They were sister brother, and she's the curator of the museum now. And
It's that one building or
yeah,
more?
it's the old Eilison home.
Home, yeah.
Yeah, it's where Carl Ben Eilison grew up, and he became very famous up there. And now, we've been up to Alaska 3 times, I believe, and she.
Well, there's a Carl Ben Eilison air base.
Yes, up there.
by,
we've stayed there.
Yeah.
At the she gets first class treatment up there because of the relationship, and we stayed the last time we were there. We stayed at the base housing there, and the
Officers Club or...
officers' quarters, yes, and the well, it's called the Eilison base club, but we had a suite there, and named after a general that was famous too. But we've been up there 3 times, and I've been there 4 times. I flew up there from when we were stationed in Washington, bring back planes. I flew up as a co-pilot with Penrod, my pilot at that time. We brought back 4 B-17s that were going to be given to the Russians, and at the last minute they decided not to give them to the Russians. And so we went up there to bring them back.
What activity now is there with the Carl Ben Eilison Museum in Hatton? Are you are you building another building and so on?
They would like to. They'd like to build a state Eilison museum there, but it's going to take an awful lot of money to raise, and it'll be built near. They have bought the property for the new. It'll be a large building to hold airplanes and parts and
Artifacts. And so on.
artifacts, yes. And but it's going to be a little delayed. They need to raise about $2.5 million, and besides what the state can put in.
Yeah.
So She's very active. My wife is. She is there every day, almost of the year.
Yeah. What about children? Do you have any children, or?
I have 3 children. I have a daughter at Lisbon who's in real estate and married to a farmer who's very successful there. I have a son in California who's a regional manager for a large building supply company, and I have a daughter in Switzerland who is just moving back to the States here now. She's going to live in...
She married, or?
Yeah, well, she was married. She married a Swiss person in California, and he'd overstayed his visa, and so he was exported back to Switzerland, and she followed him back there, married, but then she got dual citizenship immediately, and so she could, and she worked in monetary things there, money matters for several large companies. Now she's going to be doing the same thing, but in Florida, and in fact, she just flew back this week.
Do you have any grandchildren then, or?
I have 3 in Lisbon. That's all we have so far.
How's your health now then? Your wife and you, or your health?
My wife, I don't care to say it there, but she's strong as a horse. She doesn't, and she's very active in all community matters and the Allison Museum there.
Yeah.
And mine is, I have trouble walking at times.
Do you have much pain?
I did have a lot of it. I was taking a lot of codeine there for a long time, but I've cut out codeine now, and I take 3 other things. So I'm getting along fine.
And you're getting along, you like you're satisfied with Hatton and so on? You feel that's your home?
Yeah, I do. I wouldn't live there all year, but Eileen, it's her, she's at the museum right across the alley there, and so she'll want to stay there as long as she lives. And, from now on, we're going to spend time going south. We have been going south in Europe. We've been in Europe several times, and during the winter time when it's miserable up here. But I feel I've been treated very well by the Air Force. I'd like to stay in, but my disability was too much to. So and I'm getting along quite well. I'm 77 years old, and I had quit drinking whiskey about 6 years ago. But I have a glass of wine at dinner every night, and sometimes a little beer in the afternoons. But otherwise, I'm very
good constitution.
Yeah, I feel good. I do.
Yeah. Well, it was nice visiting with you.
Yeah, thanks, Elmer.
And I hope that I know that your children and grandchildren will enjoy this little story of yours. I mean, it's different than others, you know. And I think we got enough time so that you could kind of explain things. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to say, or.
No, I really don't. You've interviewed some of my people I know, like Harold Tustin and ex-POWs. He wasn't Air Force, but he was captured in North Africa.
Well, they were all a little different, you know, the POWs.
We are, We were treated a little better, I think, than anybody else, too, being air.
Well, there was a...
Oh, the enlisted men, But as an Air Force officer...
Well, yeah, especially if you got in contact with the German Luftwaffe.
Yeah. I was frightened of them a couple of times, but here I am in Hatton, North Dakota, and feeling good.
Yeah.
We're getting along. And thank you, Carl.
Yeah, well, I was glad that you could come.
Yes.
And we'll send you a tape of